Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whenever you're tuning in. This is our CFP opening week edition of Tailgate Trash Talk, brought to you by Backyard Sports. I got Bentley with me. How you doing, bud?
Well, I got the news today that a five-star defensive lineman was transferring from Texas A&M to South Carolina. So I'm feeling pretty good, baby. I feel I'm right in
Yeah,
there. I'm right in
buddy.
the pocket right now.
South Carolina on its way to becoming a national powerhouse. Stay tuned.
D-line you.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, so we've got our opening week of games this week within the college football playoff. Dad, thanks for tuning in. And we've got some interesting matchups. We've got some matchups that, in years past, we likely wouldn't have gotten. Like, even in some of these bowls, like some of these teams would have been scrambled and moved and put other places. So we have some interesting matchups that start with on Friday night. We get the first of the opening round games. So 8 teams play this week. As we've talked about previously, the home teams will actually be home and will be on their campus. So the Indiana Hoosiers go up to Notre Dame. They go up to South Bend to play the Fighting Irish. Notre Dame is a 7-point favorite. We are on opposite sides, and if you haven't looked ahead yet, I will spoil it for you. Bentley and I are on opposite sides of every single pick this week. So it's going to be a very, very interesting week. We are going to preview the bracket later as well, and not to spoil too much there, but our brackets are very different. So we've got a lot of interesting content potentially coming down the pike here, in addition to the fact that it's the college football playoff. But talk to me, man. Why do you feel like Notre Dame is going to cover 7 here against Indiana?
Well, first I want to hit on the home game aspect
Yeah.
of this because I was doing some reading and I heard some folks talking about it today. These home games are not as home as they would appear. They're being
Oh, yeah.
played. They are being played on the home campuses.
Yes.
But the in-stadium crews and like the light crews, they're national guys.
Yeah.
So like we're typically, I'm just going to use South Carolina because I'm familiar with their in-stadium programming, right? Like Sandstorm is a huge thing for South Carolina being at home. And the light show that they have it during TV timeouts and the fireworks when you score and all that stuff, like that's a big deal for the home stadium. That would not be a thing. Or like Lane Stadium, Virginia Tech, right? Playing Enter Sandman. That's not going to be like they might still play it, but they're also going to play the walkout song in this case for Indiana when they come into the stadium there in South Bend. So it is a home game. You'll have the home crowd. There apparently is going to be like a larger amount of tickets sold to the away teams because they're treating it as like a neutral site game. It's just being played on stadium. So just kind of further proving that this is the committee getting into bed with the NCAA for revenue, right?
Yeah.
Like that's because they don't actually care about this being a home game. They care about the team that makes the playoff making money. And that's what's going to happen in this case. So I heard that today, and it really, like, that kind of bummed me out, if I'm being honest. Part of the intrigue, and we talked about it last week on the show, part of the intrigue for this first round was like, I want the home game. I want to see, I guess Georgia has a bye, but like, again, I'll just use South Carolina. I want to see Sandstorm. I want to see the media team run the LED light show. Like that's what I desire because there's nothing better than a home night game in college football. And we're kind of being robbed of that. I don't know exactly how it's going to play out, but there were rumors of like 30,000 Tennessee fans getting tickets to Ohio State this weekend. Like, if that's the case, that sucks.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I actually saw the graphic where Tennessee put together like a meme, if you will, of the checkerboard that Tennessee has in their end zone, the checkerboard of the seats that they have at their stadium overlaid on the horseshoe. And that was an interesting thing, but I agree with you. It is interesting that they are going to be playing at a home stadium, but they are kind of making tickets available. That was the first thing I had heard was the ticket availability, and I was like, I guess I kind of get it.
sure.
in a way. But I think I think that might be one thing that changes in the future potentially is like it'll be revenue sharing. So they'll share revenue from tickets at a certain level, right? Instead of like making tickets available where they can sell them and whatever. But I think putting it to revenue sharing, we may end up seeing this be more of a home atmosphere. I did not hear the national media thing until not too long ago either, that like the national crew is going to have control so they can match it with like it being like a nationally televised kind of neutral broadcast, which I also think I agree with you. I don't love that. I do think that these are going to be some of the growing pains and maybe the learning curve of doing this, because I don't want a team that earns a 5 through 8 seed to have to kind of play this neutral sort of setting. So I'm with you. I think if you earn a home game, it should just be a fucking home game. And I think it's like 10% or something that they make available for like normal regular season games for the road team. So just stick to that, or whatever that percentage is. It's an arbitrary number, but whatever that is, just stick to that for this game because you earned that home game. I'm with you on that.
Yeah. Make it a true home game and seed the bracket according to the actual rankings, please.
Yes. Let's fucking do that too, for sure.
Okay, what was your question? You asked me a question before I went on that tangent.
In addition to your thoughts on the home field, non-home field advantage, why is Notre Dame going to cover -7?
Oh, okay. Notre Dame is better. They have been all year, right?
Have they?
They have been.
Really? You think Indiana loses to Northern Illinois?
In October? Sure.
That's part of the year, right?
All right, Gary. Is this the discussion you want to go on? Is we're discussing losses that happened in October?
No.
Okay. No. Wrong guy to talk to that point about. Like I'm not. Nah, wrong team. You're poking the bear over here with early season losses.
Yeah, that's fair. Especially ones that weren't really righteous.
Yeah. So Notre Dame, all season long, their defense has been filthy. It just has been. Notre Dame plays a style of offense where they control the clock and they're able to take the air out of the ball. Notre Dame has a transfer quarterback that was injured when he got onto campus in Riley Leonard, transferring over from Duke, obviously. He was injured when he got to spring ball. He was still kind of lingering when the season started. Talked about them not being super explosive. That is still kind of the case, but their running game is so efficient there in Notre Dame with Bryce Love. Bryce Love? Yeah, I think it's Bryce. I don't know. Whatever their running back's name is, it's Love.
Yeah.
It's
not Bryce, though. It's
something Love.
Yeah.
I don't know. They don't have their names on the jerseys. Jeremiah Love. Yeah, thank you. They don't have their names on the jersey, so it's impossible to tell who's who there, right? Get with the times, Notre Dame. But no, so the game script I envisioned for this game is Notre Dame controlling the clock with the offense and then kind of strangleholding this Indiana offense, right? We saw them play one good team all year, and that was Ohio State, who, for my money, is the most talented team in the country. They were not able to run an explosive style offense. They weren't able to execute their explosive plays against that Ohio State team. I'm not saying that Notre Dame is as good as Ohio State. What I'm saying is that all season long, their defense has been pretty ferocious and able to limit explosive plays, minus the one super long touchdown run by NIU, right? But again, that was in October. So if you're telling me that they haven't cleaned that up and are not going to be juiced up and ready to go for a playoff game in South Bend, I find that very difficult to believe, right? Now, on the other side, Indiana, the last time we saw them, they scored 66 points in an effort to kind of like, hey, committee, don't forget about us, right? Yeah. I know we lost, but don't forget about us.
Yeah.
So there is a world where Curtis Rourke and this Indiana offense comes out and puts on a show, and like Notre Dame just doesn't really have any answers. Like if Indiana gets the ball first and goes out and scores and like sets the tempo and is able to kind of impose their will from the jump, there's a chance that we see this Notre Dame team kind of fold a little bit, right? I don't envision that happening. I think that Notre Dame kind of handles this game well and wins by, I don't know, you play this all the way to like 13.5, maybe. They might win by 2 touchdowns. This is my gambling dilemma that I had to explain to someone the other day, right? So I will ask your opinion on my gambling situation, then you can give me why you think Indiana's going to cover. So I put in a future ticket for Notre Dame to win the national title. I got them at 7-1, and I'm going to use round numbers just so it's easier, right? Let's say I put $100 on them to win 7-1. I also put in a ticket for them to cover this weekend. So I have $200 on the line this weekend. And if they lose, then I'm out, right? Like I don't make any money. But do I think that Notre Dame is going to win the national title? No. But here's what I'm doing. I put in the ticket. If they cover this weekend, I basically double my money with that. If they win this weekend, my cash out option going into the next round game against Georgia will cover whatever I lost, probably, if they don't cover but win the game, right? So I'm going to be somewhere near the green if they win but don't cover this weekend. If they cover this weekend, then I'm set. Like I've already made money. I'm good to go. Let's say they beat Georgia and make it to the third round. My cash out option basically doubles at that point, right? Because they're not going to take any chances of them beating Boise State or whoever they're playing in the next round. Exactly. I'm up basically regardless. Let's say they beat whoever it is they're playing in the third round and make it to the national title game. I'm basically at my cash out is going to be around 75% of my initial wager, right? Yeah. So I'll be looking at like $175 cash out, or more than that, I guess it would be, because it's a $700 payout.
$500, $550.
Yeah. Then I have an opportunity to hedge. Yeah. Right? You get to the national title game. I can either cash out before the game, make money, or I let that ride and I bet on the team on the other side, where the payout on that, it would be more than my initial $100 wager on Notre Dame to win the national title. Yep. So if the other team wins the game,
you're still going to make money.
I'm still making money. Now, there is a small world where like Jeremiah Love and Riley Leonard get hurt late in the fourth quarter of the semifinal, and the juice is just so big on the other side's money line that like I have to figure something. I have to take like an alt line and play it down to where I'm still making money. Like I'd have to fudge the numbers a little bit in that instance, but I don't envision something like that happening, right? So am I crazy for thinking that like I've put myself in basically a no-lose situation unless Notre Dame loses the game Friday night? Like I pretty much am set to make money with this future ticket that I have.
Yeah. Yeah. There's you're already down to 12 teams left. Your cash out right now on a $100 ticket, you're probably already in the green. Maybe slightly in the red, but you know, if they win this weekend, you're going to be in the green, even if they don't cover for sure, because you're down to 8 teams left next week. And Notre Dame's in the probably middle of that pack. So your cash out's going to be more than the $100 you would bet on the cover this weekend for sure. Somebody tried to tell you were wrong.
Yeah. They just said it's, they said it was not a lot of risk for not much reward. And I was like, sure. You could argue the fact that if I cash it out early, the reward is not going to like be worth it. I guess the juice is not worth the squeeze. But I'm not putting this bet in because I think Notre Dame is going to win the national title. I put this bet in because I see an opportunity to steal a little money out of Vegas's pocket,
right?
For basically no risk unless Notre Dame loses Friday night.
Oh, you put this in recently.
I put it in yesterday.
Okay, so you're not in the green yet. This is a now line at 7-1, not earlier in the year.
Exactly. Yeah, it would have been much higher if I put it in earlier in the year, but I put it in yesterday at 7-1.
Should have put it in after the NIU loss. You'd gotten real fucking juice.
True. That's very true. I could have just bet them to like make the playoff, right?
Yeah.
So my cash out currently is exactly what my wager was. So like I'm not going to cash that out early.
No.
But again, if they win this Friday night, and if they cover especially, but if they just win, I'm going to be in the green on this ticket specifically. I don't understand. To me, and this is a very good friend of mine. No shade to him. He does whatever he wants. But like, to me, it was so simple because like, I'm just stealing money from Vegas unless Indiana comes out and beats Notre Dame this weekend.
Yeah. For sure.
But
I won't dime his name out on live TV, but is it the guy we usually talk this sort of stuff with?
I don't think you definitely don't know this person.
Oh,
So
okay. I was thinking it was old boy in security.
Oh no.
Okay.
He would understand where I'm coming
You
from.
would, yeah.
And yeah.
I would expect him to. I was curious why he would have that stance. So
No, he would know what I was talking about.
Yeah.
I don't think I told him about it yet though.
Yeah, no doubt. But here's my thing with Indiana, right? I don't know that I trust Notre Dame, to be honest. I look at who they played all year, and it's pretty similar to who Indiana played all year, with the exception of the fact that Indiana played Ohio State and Notre Dame played nobody close to Ohio State all season long. Very, very weak strength of schedule, very, very weak schedule to begin with. It's who Notre Dame is. It's how they schedule. They just don't care, right? Because they're Notre Dame and they're going to sell tickets. They're going to sell TV dollars every week, no matter who they play. They could play fucking Middle Tennessee State 12 times and they would sell tickets. They would sell TV dollars and they would go 12-0 and they would be in the playoff and they would get blown out in the first round like they always do in the playoff. I look at what Indiana did against Ohio State, and I see a team that really was failed by its special teams. They held Ohio State to a little over 300 total yards of offense. That's a pretty goddamn Herculean effort for a team that really nobody expected to even be in the game. I look at where Ohio State got the ball in field position often in that game, and that game's a 3-score game by the end of it. That feels a lot more like a 1 to maybe 2-score game without the special teams failing as badly as they failed. Now, certainly things could have continued to go that way or whatever, but Ohio State wasn't hitting home run after home run after home run against this Indiana team. So I don't think that Indiana can't play with a team like Notre Dame, because I don't think Notre Dame is anywhere close to the caliber of Ohio State. Ohio State plays Notre Dame on a neutral field. I take Ohio State by probably 10, maybe as many as 13. I just don't think Notre Dame is really that scary. And I like what Indiana can do with some of the things that they do to disguise things on offense. And I've seen Notre Dame get shredded by teams that move the pocket, that move a lot of motion, a lot of kind of smoke and mirrors on offense. I've seen it happen. Northern Illinois kind of bullied them this year too. Like, I keep going back to that. Like, that's a scary proposition for me if I'm a Notre Dame fan, now finally going in and facing a team that whatever you think of Indiana, they're ranked in the top 10. They have one loss in the Big Ten. I trust Indiana right now, maybe a little more than I trust Notre Dame. Indiana's not going to be, they're not going to be like, Penn State hosting SMU, where SMU is a team in Dallas that has to go up and play in the snow. Indiana's right up the road, right? Like literally right up the road from Notre Dame. So maybe it's more of a gut feeling. I like what Indiana can do offensively. I don't think they're going to repeat what they did on special teams against Notre Dame. And I don't want to spoil my bracket, but I'm putting a money line ticket in for Indiana against Notre Dame, not only to cover, but to beat Notre Dame outright.
Okay, so you made an argument against yourself, I think, there. So you mentioned that they were failed by their special teams, which I agree. Special teams was bad. And then you said that they held Ohio State to 316 yards of offense.
Right.
Well, you're not going to give up 500 yards of offense if the opponent's field position is on the plus 35. You know what I mean? Okay. Also, conveniently left out of that argument was that Indiana had 153 yards of offense that entire game. Sure. So they were half of what Ohio State was, not like excluding the field position. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was much more recently than the Notre Dame loss.
Whose defense is better?
Ohio State
or Notre Dame?
Ohio State.
Right.
Ask me that about any of the other 11 teams in the country in the bracket.
I don't think Notre Dame is going to do that to Indiana. I also don't think that the avalanche is going to start in the first quarter when your special teams fails you 3 consecutive opportunities.
Okay.
That changes a lot of the outlook of the game. You have to drop back more. You tee off. Those DNs can tee off. 7 NFL defensive linemen that they have on that defense can just tee off right from the get-go. I get what you're saying. I do understand what you're saying. I absolutely understand what you're saying. I don't think the special teams is going to fail them like that, and I don't think Notre Dame's defense can be as suffocating as Ohio State's defense.
Okay. Also, the NIU win over Notre Dame was September 7th. It wasn't even in October. It was in the first weekend of September. It was technically week 2. Yeah, because week 0, 1, 2. Yeah. Okay, so you think Indiana is going to win this game?
I do. I have them winning this one.
That's okay.
For reference, the reason I mentioned the 300 yards that they held Ohio State to, Ohio State averages well over 400 yards a game.
Sure.
On offense.
Sure. Hey, that's cool. Do you think that Ohio State's running game is better than Notre Dame's running game?
Yes.
You think Ohio State's is better? Okay. All right. Because then
they have 2 guys that probably start at Notre Dame over Jeremiah Love.
Okay. Just Travion Henderson, Virginia kid, shout out VA, 2 up, 2 down. Averaged 7.6 yards a carry in that game. Okay. Okay. I don't think that Indiana's going to win this game, but that interesting. That is interesting. I don't know. I find it tough to. I know that we can only use games that we've seen in the past as reference points for levels of competition like this, but I just I know that the Notre Dame team we saw lose to NIU is different than the Notre Dame team we're going to see come out on that field Friday night. I'm more inclined to believe that the team we saw lose to Ohio State in Indiana, they are more closely aligned to that lost team than are the Notre Dame Fighting Irish.
All right. Yeah, that's fair. All right. Onward. Penn State, SMU. Again, we're on the opposite sides here. Do you have SMU beating Penn State or just covering the 8.5?
Just covering the 8.5. I don't think they're going to win. I would love to see them win. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. My biggest thing is this feels like 2 teams that are very, very different in terms of talent and composition. I fully understand the James Franklin thing. The only thing he's got going for him is that SMU is the 11th best team in the country, not the 10th best team in the country. Now, I know his record against top 25 isn't great either, but his record against top 10 and top 5 teams is paltry compared to his record against 11 through 100. What are we up to? 131 now or whatever it is. So I think that what Penn State has is, one, the advantage of the elements. It's going to be fucking cold. And if SMU looked cold in Charlotte a couple weekends ago, they are going to look so cold in Happy Valley when it's probably going to be in the teens, maybe single digits. They're forecasting snow. I don't know that we're going to actually get that snow because the weather pattern can shift in the Northeast on a dime. But I also think that Penn State has the ability to kind of just play some bully ball almost with SMU, where they're bigger, they're stronger, they're faster. And I think that helps them overcome the James Franklin issues. Now, I fully understand I'm probably going to get burnt yet again by Penn State because they've burnt me probably 35 times over the last 2 years, and they haven't even played that many games. So I'm going with Penn State. I just think that if you put Penn State and Clemson on a neutral field, I think Penn State wins by maybe a touchdown, and Clemson just beat SMU. I'm gonna go with Penn State one more time, and probably be cursing their name again on Wednesday. Speaking of James Franklin, real quick aside, I heard the most unreal insult about 20 minutes before the show in a social media post. I forget her name, or I would shout it out on the show, but she does like NFL reviews, and she called Mike McDaniel sneakerhead James Franklin because he's like 3-18 against teams above 500.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's fair. That's awful, but that's fair. That's so disrespectful. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. 2 800-yard rushers for Penn State. I know that Drew Aller played pretty well last week against Oregon. That was a little bit of an outlier game, in my opinion, for that Penn State offense. I do think there is some. I made kind of like a joking reference to James Franklin teams playing better at neutral site games rather than like big time environments with a lot of energy and stuff like that. And I know I made the comment earlier about this not being like a true home game or whatever, but they're planning a whiteout. Those kids are going to be up tailgating early. This is the early slot on Saturday. It's going to be in the 20s. Like you mentioned, SMU looking cold. I don't know how you combat that other than just layering up with like your hands. You're not wearing fleece line gloves. No. You're wearing football gloves, and they had the drops early. Even going into like the third quarter of that game in Charlotte last week and a half ago, whatever it was. So I do expect SMU. There we go. I forgot the name of the school. I do expect SMU to be able to figure out something on offense and keep this game pretty close, like a 6-point game, 4-point game, something like that. But like I mentioned, Katron Allen and the other kid, Singleton from Penn State, I kind of expect that offensive line from Penn State and those two backs to just lean on the defense at SMU. They have a physicality difference. You know, it's Big Ten football, right? They kind of always have the physicality difference unless they're playing the SEC, but they will lean on you. They're big. They're strong. You've said it all year long. This is the most talented team James Franklin has had. I just kind of expect that to pull through at the end, right?
Yeah.
Now, how do you account for the James Franklin difference? I don't know. Because boy, is it a difference. He's bad against ranked teams, especially top 10 guys. But like, as much as I want to see SMU win this game, because I just don't like the Big Ten. And this is a classic Big Ten team in Penn State. I would love for them to go down, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're able to run the ball effectively on this SMU defense and kind of control the tempo of the game, at least. Maybe not like control all the scoring, but they'll control the tempo of it. Tyler Warren probably makes a couple of plays.
Yeah.
I'll take SMU to cover. 8.5 feels like a lot. It may be a little disrespectful to them, but it's a team that I don't think they scored less than 30 all year, maybe. I mean,
that could be right. I think that's close. I don't remember a game that they were held to. Even the 5 or 6 turnover game against Duke, they got in the 30. So
Duke held them to 28.
Oh, I thought they
and
got
then BYU held them to 15. So
their only losses.
Yeah,
BYU.
20. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think from that physicality perspective, I'll be watching this early. If SMU is able to force a couple of field goals early and can keep that running game from just kind of forcing their way, I expect if they're going to plunge, they're going to plunge in from 2 yards out. They're not going to hit explosive plays because that's not the Penn State offense. But if SMU can stand up to that running game early and force a couple of field goals, then 8.5 is going to be a lot of points.
Yeah.
If Penn State's able to control the line of scrimmage with that big offensive line and that two-headed attack in the backfield with Singleton and Katron Allen, that could be a real problem. Like they could upset Penn State if Penn State's not able to control the line of scrimmage against that SMU defense. So we'll see.
You're on Penn State though, right? 8.5.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Could swing early. If they got to kick a couple field goals early, I could be in trouble.
Yeah.
Moving on, Texas, and I know this is near and dear to your heart, facing Clemson. Clemson's getting 12. I just think 12's too many. I won't take up too much time. I'll let you kind of talk about Clemson because especially since you're on the Texas side, laying 12 against Clemson. But I just don't know how much I can trust Texas. That's my big thing. I think Texas wins this game. I think it's by 5 to 8. I don't think it's by 2 touchdowns. And that's kind of where I don't know what Ewer's ankle is going to look like. I don't know how many plays they're going to give Arch to kind of spell Ewers, plus maybe use that package, use his athleticism. I just don't know where the points come from necessarily for Texas to get to a 14-point cover, right? Like winning by 2 touchdowns. I don't know where the points come from because I think Clemson's defense is good. If Texas's defense is able to keep Clemson under 14, I think you'll be right on this. I just think that Clemson's going to get to like 17-20, and this is going to be like a 27-20 type win for Texas. The floor is yours. Shit on Clemson.
First, Clemson. All right. Dabo, clown show, right? This is a transfer portal comment I have here. I gave Dabo credit. I said, hey, I think that he's developing his guys. There's a sense of loyalty there. There's a real like culture in the Clemson locker room. And then I was like, yeah, I think he probably is not bringing in transfers because the guys that would benefit his program, they just can't afford, right? Because Clemson is a clown show and Barnum and Bailey's might be out of business at this point, so they have no money to bring in the right guys. Well, Dabo brought in a transfer this week from an FCS college. Doug, you couldn't recruit him? You have to bring him in as a unserious organization. Unserious organization. Now you want to talk about not having the money to bring in recruits, then the first like marquee recruit you bring in is from an FCS. Nah, man, get out of here, dude. Get out of here. Unserious organization. Go honk your nose in the mirror, buddy. Okay. So this weekend, Texas. Week 1, Clemson and Georgia played. Clemson gave up 34 points to Georgia. Georgia has played Texas twice this season. In those 2 games, they scored 34 points combined. I understand that it was first game of the season. You have to take that with a grain of salt. These teams are different now. I get that. We also saw this same Clemson defense give up a 17-point lead in the second half to an SMU program. I don't know how Clemson scores in this game. I'm going to be honest with you. If they score 3 points, I'll be impressed. If they make it into the red zone, I'll be impressed. The best unit on the field in this game of all 6 units will be that Texas defense. They are fast, they are physical, and they are nasty. They get after the quarterback. Cade Klubnik is known to throw interceptions. They have 2 guys at quarterback that they feel comfortable running out there at any point in the game on the Texas side of the ball, right? Mm-hmm. Phil Maffa, I have no idea if that guy's healthy or not. I don't know what his deal is there in Clemson in the backfield. He was healthy. He's not healthy. He isn't healthy. I don't know what the deal is with him. They have true freshman wide receivers that they throw the ball to more often than not. I just don't see it for Clemson, man. This is a team that backed its way into the ACC title game. Your Syracuse Orange had to beat the most prolific offense in the country in order for Clemson to even get a chance to go to Charlotte.
Down 21.
Yeah, like I don't see it with this Clemson team. They're not good. They lost a home game to South Carolina. I don't see it with Clemson, man. They're going on the road, sort of, to Austin. Like that Texas team has to be fired up after the SEC title game, you know, kind of choking that one away, losing to a backup quarterback. Like, I don't know. I just don't. I actually, now that I said that out loud, I think I got that score wrong. Yeah. So in the 2 games, Texas lost to Georgia. No, I got that right. They scored 34 points. Yeah. No, I was right. Did I say Georgia scored 34 points? I think I got that wrong. Texas scored 34 points.
Trying to make the point, but
yeah.
Texas scored 34 points.
I had it reversed. Texas lost to Georgia twice, scored 34 points in both of those games. That's how many points that Georgia scored against Clemson in week 1. Georgia scored many more points than did Texas in those 2 victories, by the way.
Yeah.
The point, it sounded good when I said it. I didn't say it correctly. Georgia fucking crushed Texas twice.
Yeah.
They dominated that game in Atlanta. Their offense was just stagnant in the second half, but
Yeah.
they're going to control both lines of scrimmage in this game. Their offensive line is significantly better than the defensive line at Clemson. I don't see it, man. I don't know how Clemson scores in this game. Maybe Quinn throws them one and they run it back. That's a possibility. He's been prone to throw picks at different points throughout the season this year. Clemson's not good, dude. I've tried to tell people. We tried to tell them after that Georgia game. Clemson's not good. I don't see it with them.
Yeah, I think this might be the low scoring game of the weekend. Just because I'm not sure either offense really gets going. Texas doesn't have the explosive playmakers on the outside that we've seen from them the last couple of years. Obviously, with all of the talent that they put in the NFL, A.D. Mitchell, Xavier Worthy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They're not quite the explosive team. Ewers has been very inconsistent. This could, I mean, even if Clemson's held to like single digits, this could still be like a 14-3 game, and Texas doesn't cover the 12. It's just, I don't know that I trust either offense, and I just thought 12 points was too much. That's the big thing with these two offenses going up against each other. I hope I'm wrong because, you know, we have been trying to tell people all year Clemson's no good, and I don't think they should be in the playoff to begin with. So if they get blown out, sure, I'm all in for that. But I just 12's too much against that Texas team. I don't know that I trust their offense to really be able to put up enough points to cover double digits.
Yeah.
And then we finished the weekend off on the opposite side here with Tennessee and Ohio State. I'm going to let you go first since you had Ohio State all year. You've been consistent even through the tough loss to Michigan. You've been very staunchly behind the fact, right? It's not an opinion. It's a fact that Ryan Day has a Michigan problem. He doesn't have an Ohio State problem. I believe he's 34-3, or it might even be like 41-3 against non-Michigan teams in his career.
Yeah.
And he's fucking 1-3 against, or 1-4 against Michigan in his time there. It's been an entire recruiting cycle and then some because of the COVID year since he last beat Michigan.
Yeah,
so talk to me about Ohio State against Tennessee.
All right, so Ohio State, first off, the backdoor cover potential for Nico is there, right? Tennessee can hit big plays. There's a chance that I don't win this bet, but I firmly believe that Ohio State will win this game. Ohio State average opponent scoring is 10.9 points.
Yeah, first in the country.
Yeah. We have spoken many times on the show about Nico and that offense in Tennessee not playing to the potential of what we think they have there, right? Nico was this highly touted kid coming out of high school, first big NIL signing, comes in, beats Iowa in the bowl game, and we're like, oh man, off and running, Heisman, national title, all this stuff. And then like the season plays out, and they have like 3 games where we really, really looked at it. And we're like, he's going to be the best, the best player in college football going forward. Like there weren't like a ton of highlight games for him coming out of this season. He's going into the Horseshoe. It's going to be an unfriendly environment. Regardless of how many Tennessee fans are there, I promise it will be an unfriendly environment. Ohio State coming off the dastardly loss to Michigan. Ohio State being a team all season long. We saw them play Oregon, to a 2-point game in Oregon. And we also saw them lose to Michigan, right? This is a team who all season long has played to the level of the competition in front of them. They have the talent to play with anybody in the country. They have a coach who I don't think Ryan Day is a bad coach. I think he has a Michigan problem. It forever we talked about building these rosters to beat the other team. Well, Ryan Day doesn't do that. He builds rosters to win national titles. And Jim Harbaugh came in and built a roster to beat Ohio State, who, you know, by transitive property, if you beat the team who's built to win a national title, you're probably going to be good enough to win a national title. And that's what happened. This is a team with so much talent that you look up and down the board and they could have like 6 first-round draft picks potentially. Now, the thing that gives me a pause about them is their offensive line. I think they're down 3 starters on the offensive line going in this game. They're super, super young up front. And that defensive line for Tennessee is ferocious. Now, what do you learn in fucking pee-wee football, dude? How do you beat a pass rush? You run the ball. You let those DNs get upfield and you run right past them. They have a two-headed monster in Ohio State that, my God, is just unrivaled at most colleges. I mean, Travion Henderson, and Quinshon Judkins are just battering rams that can score anytime they touch the ball. And then you throw in Emeka Ibuka and Jeremiah Smith on the other side, and you're like, dear God, what do we do? I understand that the front seven for really like the front 4 to 5 guys for Tennessee are incredible and they're ferocious and they can rush the passer, but like Will Howard, just play like a good game. You don't have to play an incredible game. Just play a good game and you guys are going to win. Yeah. Don't be bad. Like, if you just play a good game, Ohio State wins this game going away, in my opinion.
Yeah. That's a good question. I think it happens a lot more in like the regular season, especially for some teams. I think you just kind of overlook teams. You're not well coached in a lot of situations, but other situations, sometimes it feels like it's just like a bounce of a ball here, and you're not fully clocked in. I think it can happen a lot with younger teams as well, especially like college level teams. I attribute a little bit of what Bama had happen this year to a bit of hubris, which can happen a lot of times. That's the sort of thing that can happen in team sports, especially because once Uncle Mo gets on one side or the other, sometimes it's really hard to swing that pendulum back the other way. I have Tennessee in this one. I actually, not to spoil my bracket again, I have Tennessee winning this one outright. You mentioned a lot of the things that I chalk up as kind of reasons why I think that Tennessee could pull this upset off. I know that it'd be a big surprise because you're not wrong. Ohio State is the most talented team in the country. But you mentioned the banged up offensive line, and you talked about running the ball to counter what Tennessee can do in the pass rush. Tennessee's a top 10 team against the run this year. I know that can kind of depend schedule and you get a lead and teams stop throwing the ball, but they're also like 4th in the country in points against as well. Playing an SEC schedule. They didn't play the most loaded. They didn't play Florida's schedule, but they played, they played Georgia. They got Alabama, Oklahoma. They played NC State out of conference, who ended up 24th in the country after kind of righting their season. They had a real bad start, but righted their season. So they played a good, not great SEC schedule this year, and still finished top 10 in yards against in the run. They're like 14th, I believe, in yards against in the pass. They're like 9th in the country in total yards against, but they're also 4th in the country in points against. I think people might be surprised by this game. I think you look at these two teams and people probably expect like a 31-24 sort of game. I don't think you're going to get that in this game.
Nope.
I think you could see something like a 20-17 type of game. And I've got Tennessee winning. I trust that front, especially that front 4 defensively. I also trust Dylan Sampson to be able to kind of counter some of what Ohio State can do on their front 4. You mentioned run the ball to counter some of the great pass rushing that they can do. Take some pressure off of Nico. I trust Josh Heupel and his ability to put a game plan together. We haven't seen it click all year, really, and they still averaged 34 or 37 points a game, 13th in the country offensively for points. Now, they did run it up against a couple teams, so a little bit skewed. But I just think you put those things together, their ability to run the ball, their ability to play really stiff defensively up front. I think this is going to be a real tight game late. I've got Tennessee winning this, maybe on the foot of their kicker. Potentially Ohio State having an opportunity late and maybe, not capitalizing like we saw them against Oregon as well. But give me Tennessee in a tight one.
Under?
Yes. Oh, I'm smashing that under. It's like 42.5, I think I saw.
45 is what
45.
I saw. It opened at 47.5, and it's
down.
Yeah, it's down to 45.5. You can still get it at 46.5 at some books.
Okay.
I
need to get it in early because I think that closes closer to 42, 43.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
2017
definitely
covers
under.
that for you, though.
Yeah, definitely under. Definitely under. I could see like a 2017 type game in this, yeah. For sure. All right, well, that brings us to the end of our CFP opening round picks. I'm going to go to you first. You got anything off the board from this week that you want to talk about? These non-CFP bowl games. There's a couple of intriguing matchups that I saw. I'm curious to see what you found that you were interested in away from the college football playoff matchups.
So there's two that really jumped out and caught my eye, and one of them has lost some of its luster. Talk about Tulane in Florida playing on Friday night. Maybe a discussion for after the bowl season's over, but the transfer portal, I don't necessarily have an issue with the transfer portal being a thing and the player mobility. Whatever. I don't love it, but this is not my gripe. My gripe is the timing of it. And I don't know a solution because these are college students. They have to enroll in classes. So really the only opportunity to transfer after the season prior to spring ball is right now.
September window. Yeah.
And Darian Mensah, the redshirt freshman quarterback at Tulane, who made us so much money this year, did just that. And he's transferring to Duke.
He's making himself some money.
Yeah. He's making us, I mean, credit, good for him, dude. Have at it. I would have loved to see you stay at Tulane, but
sure.
He's transferring to Duke. On the other side of this ball, though, DJ Lagway, the future of college football, behind, of course, Lenore Sellers.
Sure. Yeah.
Second best quarterback in the SEC potentially next
season.
season.
Second in New York next year.
Yeah, for sure. Would love to see that. I hope that South Carolina and Florida do not play next season, though. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
I think we do.
Looks like the truth.
Yeah. But I'm excited for that. This line, it's an 11-point spread. Florida's laying 11. So this game, obviously, it has lost its luster with the Darian Mensah transfer news, and that really sucks. But I was super excited for this game until I saw that happen.
Yeah.
And then another one that jumps out to me, the should have been Bolitnikoff winner, Nash, the wide receiver for San Jose State. They're playing South Florida, over under 60.5. Like, that's going to be a high-flying game, I expect. They're playing on Tuesday, Christmas Eve, playing all the way out in Hawaii. So if you're in a cold area of the country and you want to feel some aloha warmth in your bones,
watch the TV. You'll see the sun.
Yeah, put the TV on. That's like a fucking 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock start of them for whatever the time difference is. That game should be fun. And I reiterate, the should have been Bolitnikoff winner, the Triple Crown winner.
Yeah, I was going to say, on that note, I was going to quiz you real quick. Where did he finish in catches?
First.
Where did he finish in receiving yards?
First.
And where did he finish in receiving touchdowns?
First.
Yeah, and didn't win the Bolitnikoff.
Nope.
Don't get me wrong. I think Travis Hunter's a great athlete. That was weird to me. I didn't think he should have been maybe a finalist, sure, but he won both of the awards he was up for and it felt like it was such a hype train thing. Like, he was the best defensive player in the country this year.
Kyle Kennard would like a word with you, buddy.
Right. Like, there's some other guys that, I don't know. It is what it is.
Walter Nolan would like a word with you.
We know. Yeah, right. Like, we know that these awards a lot of times are just hype trains. Like, my first exposure to it was when Joey Harrington was on a billboard in Times Square when I was a kid, and I was like, what the fuck is this? They're really campaigning for the Heisman. Yep. And then, in the process of that whole thing breaking out that year when Joey Harrington was on a billboard in Times Square, that was when I found out that Joe Theismann was actually born Joe Theismann.
Mm-hmm.
And while he was at Notre Dame, they decided that in order to make his name sound more like the award and get it to stick out in people's minds, he changed his name to Theismann and never went back to Theismann, even when he went to the NFL, even when he didn't win the Heisman Award.
Yep.
So,
bums, dude. A lot of
colleges do some weird shit trying to get. And I listen. Go parade around your player. It's a big deal for a college to have a player win the Heisman. I get it. So go all in, but it is some interesting stuff that you can see during campaign season for the Heisman.
Breaking news
Uh-oh.
as of 2 hours ago, but, X, the everything app, it's all happening on X. Diego Pavia granted another season of eligibility, returning to Vanderbilt.
He's going to stay at Vandy, huh?
Yeah.
I like it. That's pretty cool. Listen, spoiler alert for next year, right? Don't sleep on Vandy. You learn this year. Bama, and not just Bama, but Bama.
Listen, going into Nashville,
Yep.
sinking the ships, it's not for everyone.
Not
Only
everybody
special programs can do that.
Not everybody can handle that responsibility.
I mean, it is what it is,
Yeah, for sure. Any others you wanted to talk about off the board?
JMU is playing right now. That was one I was kind of excited for in the local squad.
I wanted to get the over in, but I can't bet him in Virginia.
Yeah.
14 in the third. I think it was 45.5. So
yeah,
just about at pace for the over there.
We can talk about it next week, but the best tight end in college football plays in the bowl game next week.
Oh, yeah.
The kid from Bowling Green, his name is escaping me at the moment. Hold on, I can tell you. Harold Fannin. Harold Fannin Jr. lost the best tight end award to Tyler Warren for some reason. I mean, I know why, because Tyler Warren plays at a Big Ten school. I get that. But Harold Fannin led the country in receiving yards for tight ends.
It could be a very interesting tight end draft next year because you're talking Fannin, Warren. I don't know all of them that are if they're all going to go, because I know I think Warren's got one more. I think he's a junior. I know Gadsden is a junior. Technically, he's a redshirt junior, so he could come back one more. Fannin, I think, is a junior.
Junior.
Yeah. So how many of them will go? I don't know. The NIL era has kind of changed some of that. I don't think Bowling Green's got the money to keep him, but if he hits the portal, he could get some money somewhere for as good as he is. But
Harold Fannin Jr., birthplace, Canton, Ohio.
Oh, well, get him a bust.
What size jacket do you wear, son?
Right. Yeah, it could be a very interesting tight end draft. We had some underwhelming production from the tight end position for you fantasy players out there this year, with a couple of exceptions, with Brock Bowers smashing rookie records, but could be a pretty loaded tight end draft next year. Hint, Adam Peters, because we could use a playmaker at tight end.
Yeah, how does a guy who had 100 catches, 1,400 yards, and 9 touchdowns sound?
Yeah, that sounds like music
at Bowling Green.
Yeah, at Bowling Green. Yeah, for sure. I got a couple. Jacksonville State is one, and I only care about this because the breaking news from a little bit earlier this week was that Rich Rod is leaving Jacksonville State and going back to West Virginia. He said it as good as maybe anybody could have. He never should have fucking left in the first place. His tenure at Michigan was not good. And then he went to Arizona, not good. And he's been kind of on the rebound since, but been successful at Jacksonville State. Found a quarterback that he could make some plays with in that offense, dual threat type guy. And West Virginia came calling because it's been a bit of a slog for them the last few years as well. So welcome home, Rich Rod. Wish you success there. It was fun. That West Virginia team, when he coached it, was fun. Pat White and all them guys, they had a lot of fun. Tavon Austin and I think Slayton was there during that
Steve
time.
Slayton.
So yeah, they
Geno Smith.
Yeah. So welcome back, Rich Rod.
Yeah.
Should be fun. I don't necessarily have a lot of action on that game. I just think it's interesting to kind of see teams that line swung pretty hard after the news of Rich Rod as well. I think Jacksonville State opened at 1.5 point favorite. Now they're a 4-point dog. FCS semifinals this weekend. Shout out BK if you're tuning in or not. The Dakotas play each other. South Dakota State versus North Dakota State. And then another South Dakota plays Montana State in the other semifinal. So that'll be fun. Outside of that, not a whole lot. I was going to highlight South Florida San Jose State as well because it's in the 60s for the over, and I think it's going to kill it. That San Jose State offense is fun. It's high flying. And I'll point it out one more time. Ken Niumatalolo used to coach at Navy, and he's running a very, very different offense at San Jose State than he ever ran at Navy. So interesting slate this weekend, but the CFP games kind of dominate the news. All right, well, let's finish up here and let's talk CFP bracket. So what Bentley and I did is we went through and made our picks from the entire bracket, right? So we did a mock bracket essentially for you March Madness fans out there, every year. And if we could have gotten former President Obama to do one for us, we would have, but I don't have any contacts necessarily to make that happen.
I used to know a guy who knew a guy, but I don't know him anymore, so...
Yeah, so maybe next year.
Yeah, I'll try harder next year.
But anyway, so we went and made our picks. So opening round, Bentley's got Ohio State, Texas, Notre Dame, Penn State winning. He's got chalk in the first round here. Any of those you don't feel as confident about as maybe the others?
In the first round? Probably Tennessee, Ohio State.
Yeah.
I think there's the largest. How do I phrase this? The largest chance for an upset.
Yeah.
Like the most likely upset would be Ohio State. Largest chance for variance, maybe. But I feel pretty confident.
8-9 matchup, right?
What's that?
It makes sense too because it's the 8-9 matchup, right?
Yeah. And I'm making a guess as to the mentality of Ohio State going into this game because you don't know it, right?
Yeah.
The loss could have deflated them, but I feel fairly confident on my picks this week.
Yeah. All right. I have Tennessee pulling that upset for all the reasons that we talked about in terms of why I thought they would cover the 7 earlier. I've got Texas over Clemson. I do have Clemson covering, but Texas winning. I have Indiana pulling the upset against Notre Dame. And I've got Penn State over SMU. In the second round, Bentley's got Ohio State, Texas beating Arizona State, Notre Dame beating Georgia, and Boise State beating Penn State. I've got Oregon, I've got Texas, I've got Georgia, and I've got Penn State. I want to hear from you about Notre Dame and Boise State because those two feel like pretty spicy picks. Maybe Notre Dame over Georgia a little more. I'm curious how much that has to do with the status of their quarterback position. Is that big factor for you?
Yeah.
Is who's going to be playing quarterback and how healthy they'll be?
Yep, 100%.
One got his shoulder fucked and the other got starched.
Yeah, that picture of what's that boy's name?
Gunnar
Stockton.
Yeah,
laying with his fucking ankle by his hip and his eyes rolled back in his head. Yeah, it's a scary picture. I wouldn't show that to any parents of young children playing football out there. Yeah. Probably avoid that picture from your recruiting videos. That my pick of Notre Dame over Georgia is basically what I talked about Notre Dame, their defense being very, very good. Them being able to control the ball on the ground on offense. You pair all of that with the lack of explosive playmakers on the offensive side of the ball from Georgia and us not knowing who the quarterback is going into that game. It gives me reason to believe that Notre Dame could pull off that upset.
Yeah, I like that rationale for sure. And Boise State over Penn State, you have faith that Genty's going to be able to get loose against that Penn State defense and make a difference. I assume it's more of Boise State's going to outscore Penn State as opposed to Boise State's defense is going to suffocate Penn State.
Yeah, Genty had a clip. He had a quote going into like the whole Heisman thing. He said, "All year long, defense's game plan has been to stop me, and they have not stopped me yet."
Yeah.
You get guys like this in college football once every 15 years, man. Yeah. Like the last one we saw was what, Reggie Bush?
AP.
Yeah, like
you want to make the argument for.
Yeah, I mean
it was like Barry Sanders.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like these are guys that are just that special.
Yep.
That I'm gonna pick him every time. I just am. Now, Notre Dame's a different story because Notre Dame doesn't have James Franklin coaching for them. But I believe in I believed in Boise State all year long. You said you had a problem with them being a top 4 seed if we had done the reseeding as according to the rankings. I think given their track record, like I was fine with that. They're a 1-loss team whose only loss was a 1-point game at Oregon. Like I'm cool with them being a top 4 team in the country. I have no issue with that. They've proven to me everything that they need to prove to validate their seeding, right? So I'm all in on Boise. I'm in on the generational talent. Like generational talents in the NFL matter a little bit less than they do in college. If you have one of these guys in college, it's similar to like a basketball team, right? Like one superstar on a basketball team carries more effect than one superstar on a football team, but one superstar on a college football team carries a lot of weight.
Yep, for sure. I like it. Hey, give me another weekend of Ashton Jeanty on the field. Listen, I wouldn't complain. All right, so in the national semifinal, you've got Notre Dame knocking off Boise State. You've got Ohio State over Texas. I've got Oregon over Texas, and I've got Georgia knocking off Penn State. I don't really have anything that, like, if your bracket lines up that way, I think I would have picked it the same way you did. I think Notre Dame's defense has probably got enough speed to be able to kind of cover sideline to sideline, maybe not necessarily shut down Ashton Jeanty, but I think you mentioned Jeremiah Love, the run game. I think they'd be able to kind of take the air out of the football a little bit, less possessions for Jeanty to hit the 65-yarder on him.
Less opportunities, man. He's gonna get one.
Yeah.
If you can hold the rest.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't let him get 2 or 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Which it's want to do. For sure. All right, and then in the national championship game, you've got Ohio State. You are sticking with your preseason pick. I have Oregon. My fear is round 2, my national champion could go down. I don't know how much I trust Oregon, but once I picked them to beat Tennessee, I kind of stuck with them across the board. I don't think Georgia can make the explosive play like Oregon can in a national championship game. So I think in a high-scoring game, I watched Georgia struggle with Bama in the same way that I think they would struggle with Oregon in terms of allowing the explosives on defense. This isn't 2022 Georgia. They just aren't. They're not deep everywhere. They're not explosive everywhere. They're not the fastest and the biggest on the field everywhere like they were. So give me Oregon over Georgia, but maybe the winner of that second round game could be it. I would agree with you if Ohio State beats Oregon or if Tennessee beats Oregon. I could see that. The winner of Tennessee Ohio State, I could easily see being a national champion.
Can we agree that the winner of the national title is coming out of the left side of the bracket?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't like looking down the right side of the bracket. Like Georgia is probably the only team that I think has potential, but that quarterback position, it scares me against one of those teams from the left side. Even a Texas, like if they played Texas again, that quarterback position scares me. I don't know who plays. I don't know how healthy they'd be. I agree with you. I think national champion comes out of the left side of the bracket.
Yeah. The best teams are over there.
Yeah.
You got 3 teams on the left that I think could win it, and maybe one on the right.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, we could end up with a very weird representative from the right side of the bracket for sure.
Committee, reseed the bracket. Reseed the bracket.
We need that. We need that bad. That needs to happen with a quickness. I hope they learn from this year and implement it next year, because that's the number one like glaring issue with the bracket is that like you got teams that are ranked 4 but seeded 8. Like I don't love that, and I know that's not an actual case, but like it is like that. So shouldn't be. Worst case scenario, we could have had a team seeded like or ranked like 15 and seeded 4, right? Like the way the season plays out, you could have that just because you're guaranteeing the top 4 ranked conference champions that bye game. I don't like that. Give them a place. give them a place in the CFP, like we've been talking about. Give them a place. But if they're the 11th best team in the bracket, they should be the 11th seed. If they're the 12th best team in the bracket, they should be the 12th seed. All right, buddy.
We have the 12th ranked team in the country getting a bye. So
yeah. Right. Like that's a thing this year. And it, it is what it is. It is what it is. I hope they'll fix it. I think they'll fix it. I hope they'll fix it. But we'll see. We'll see. This is the hand we're dealt this year.
Yep.
All right, Bob. Well, that brings us to the conclusion. Good episode. Any closing thoughts?
Not really. Bowl season's exciting. There's a lot of like funky matchups and exciting games. The Pop-Tart Bowl this year has an actual toaster in the trophy, so that's super cool.
Yep.
Also, shout out Bill Belichick.
Oh,
becoming a college football coach.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I thought his reasoning was interesting. He goes, yeah, there's a lot of like politics and BS I don't have to deal with now that I hated about the NFL. Buddy. Oh, buddy.
You're in the conference that's dealing with a lot of that shit right now.
Yeah. Oh, buddy. Oh, Bill.
Yeah.
Oh, Bill. You should have called Nick
Saban. But
I don't know. But oh, Bill. You've been away from college football for a long time, my friend.
Yeah.
Yikes. At least he's at a football school and not a basketball school, so that's good.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
It would suck if he had gone to like Duke, a football school,
Right, yeah. Oh, man. All right, well, for Bentley and the rest of us here at Backyard Sports, this has been Tailgate Trash Talk, brought to you by Backyard Sports. We are out.